Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the 6 o'clock portion of our Board of Selectmen's meeting this evening. I'll start off by reading our preamble here that we do. Good evening, as Chairman of the Wolfeboro Board of Selectmen. I am declaring that an emergency exists, and I am invoking the provisions of RSA 91A portion of our Board of Selectmen's meeting this evening. Federal, state, and local officials have determined the gatherings of 10 or more people pose a substantial risk to our community in its continuing efforts to combat the spread of COVID-19. I am invoking the provisions and concurring with their determination. I also find that this meeting is imperative to the continued operation of town government and services, which are vital to public safety and confidence during this emergency. As such, this meeting will be conducted without a quorum of this body physically present at the same location. At this time, I also welcome members of the public accessing this meeting remotely. Even though this meeting is being conducted in a unique manner under unusual circumstances, the usual rules of conduct and decorum apply. Any person found to be disrupting this meeting will be asked to cease the disruption. Should the disruptive behavior continue thereafter, that person will be removed from this meeting. Please note that all votes are taken during this meeting shall be done by roll call vote. We already did a roll call attendance. Earlier, we went into a non-public, so we're all still here. And so we have the entire board present. So, first thing on the agenda, Mr. Pino, do we have a need to go into non-public later on this evening?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. We do under New Hampshire RSA 91A 3, Roman numeral 2, lowercase a, employment.
Okay, thank you. And we have no minutes to go over this evening. We have no public hearings. Before we go into our public input session, I have a proposed letter I'm going to read out publicly here to see if the board is would wish to stand behind this and present this to the budget committee. On December 29th, 2020. The Board of Selectmen held a special public meeting to go into a non-public session under RSA 91A:3(2)A and RSA 91-A:3(2)C. After returning to the public meeting, the board hopefully will approve a motion to send this letter to the Budget Committee, reasserting that public meeting discussion of individuals' performances and subsequent discussion of compensation is a practice that the Board of Selectmen nor the town government practices nor supports. The Board of Selectmen understands the authority granted to the Budget Committee under RSA 32:16 to prepare the operating budget and present the Budget Committee's budget to the voters each year. The board and town manager work hard to provide the Budget Committee with all the materials it requests along with ensuring the town staff is available during the entire year to meet with assigned Budget Committee members, as well as attend the Budget Committee meetings relating to their budgets. In 2016, the town had a classification and compensation study done by MRI, which created a classification plan with grades and positions. The plan represents a systematic, formalized procedure of developing equitable job groupings and equitable compensation levels for all positions. The plan is based upon the underlying assumption that individuals should receive equal pay for equal work. The Board of Selectmen is very concerned with the inappropriate comments made at the December 10th meeting, I believe it is, 2020, by Budget Committee members regarding the pay of some staff members. RSA 37:6(2) gives the town manager the power and duty to appoint upon merit and fitness alone and to remove all subordinate officers and employees under his control and to fix their compensation. RSA 91-A:3(2)A allows for discussion of employee compensation to be done in non-public session. It does damage to the morale of staff when salaries are arbitrarily raised on undocumented assumptions from a third party with no direct line authority, suggesting the staff member is underpaid for an express set of undocumented reasons and which are not included in the minutes but were stated in public. Attached is a list of RSAs that document who has authority to raise salaries and a page from the town's personnel policy regarding longevity stipends. Paul O'Brien and Linda Murray reported back to the Board of Selectmen the discussion that took place on December 22nd, 2020 at Public Budget Committee meeting regarding the reorganization of the Public Works Department and the Water Sewer Utilities Department. Improper comments were made in public concerning David Ford, which caused several admonitions from the Budget Committee Chairman to committee members. At this meeting, a member of the Budget Committee disclosed that private discussions among 5 Budget Committee members had occurred. Sequential briefings of a majority of the Budget Committee have constituted a formal meeting that has been both unnoticed and without minutes. The public is entitled to a meeting notice, an agenda, an open forum, and minutes which reflect the substance of the meeting. This did not occur. For more clarity on this matter, please review Guide to Open Government by New Hampshire Municipal Association, page 9, quotation, "A meeting of a public body must have proper notice and be open to the public, and the public body must create minutes," end of quote. Unlawful discussions are inconsistent with the right to know laws. Unnoticed meetings without an agenda or minutes are not a policy of the Board of Selectmen nor town government. As a result, the Board of Selectmen has determined that there is no likelihood of an objective assessment of the proposed Public Works reorganization. The voter deserves clarity and open discussion. The board concludes that the best path forward is to produce a warrant article for voters to objectively evaluate the need and proposed structure of the Public Works Department and Water and Sewer Utilities Department. Signed by the Board of Selectmen. Would somebody like to make a motion to adopt or approve this letter to be presented at tomorrow night's Budget Committee meeting?
I'll move that motion.
I'll second it.
We have a motion by Dave Senical and a second by Linda Murray to approve the presentation of this letter to the Budget Committee at tomorrow night's meeting. Any other discussion? Seeing none, we'll have a roll call vote. Linda Murray?
Yes.
Dave Bowers?
Yes.
Dave Senical?
Yes.
Paul O'Brien?
Yes.
And Brad Harmon votes yes also. Another thing I did inadvertently skip over was we just came out of non-public session there, and could I have a motion to seal the non-public minutes?
Brad, I
Yes.
would like to make first a motion that the board approve Brad Harriman to read this letter to the Budget Committee tomorrow night.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to have myself read this letter to the Budget Committee tomorrow night. Any other discussion? Seeing none, we'll have a roll call vote. Linda?
Yes.
Dave Bowers?
Yes.
Dave Senical?
Yes.
Paul O'Brien?
Yes.
And Brad Harmon votes yes also. Thank you. I think.
Brad, I'll make a motion to seal the non-public minutes.
Second.
Motion by Linda, second by Paul. You put you in there, Dave.
Okay.
To seal the minutes of December 29th at the 5 o'clock session. Any other discussion? Seeing none, have a roll call vote. Linda?
Yes.
Dave Bowers? Dave Senical?
Yes.
Paul O'Brien?
Yes.
And Brad Harron votes yes also. All right, thank you. All right, next on our agenda is public input, limited to 3 minutes per person. Do we have anybody out there who would like to speak to us right now?
Yes, Brad,
Yes, hi Suzanne.
would you clarify thank you. Good evening. Would you clarify what RSA you went in under for your previous non-public session this evening?
Yes, we went in under RSA 91-A:3.
Which is what?
I would have to defer to Mr. Pinio for the wording.
We went in under employment and reputation.
Thank you.
Anything else right now, Suzanne?
That's great. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Anybody else out there have any questions or comments? Seeing none, we'll move on to our bulk vote, which this evening has two manifests for December 18th and December 25th. Somebody like to make a motion to approve the bulk vote?
I will make a motion to approve the bulk vote of December 18th and 25th weekly manifests.
Second.
Motion by Paul, second by Dave Senical to approve the bulk vote weekly manifest for the December 18th and 25th. Any other discussion?
22nd,
Seeing none.
25th, sorry.
25th, yeah. Seeing no discussion, have a roll call vote. Linda?
Yes.
Dave Bowers, looks like he might have wandered off for a minute. Dave Senical,
Yes.
Paul O'Brien,
Yes.
and Brad Herron votes yes also. Thank you. We have no board or committee appointments, so under new business, we have our assessing contract extension for 2021.
So, Mr. Chairman, this is a one-year extension of our current assessing contract. This is a contract which dates back to 2016. There was a one-year extension which has been tied onto this that continues to have a one-year extension. Our intention is to go forward this spring with an RFP for assessing services, but this is a one-year contract and we need to get this complete so that we have this to DRA for the end of the year.
Okay. It all looked pretty much somewhat identical to the previous year, with just the cost of living increases is expected for it. So, any discussion from the board? Seeing none, I'd entertain a motion.
I'll move that we accept the assessing contract for 2021 that is presented to the board today, which has the list of estimated amounts on the back.
Second.
We have a motion by Linda, second by Paul, to approve the assessing contract extension for 2021 as presented to us. Any other discussion? Seeing none, I'll have a roll call vote. Linda?
Yes.
Dave Bowers? Dave Senical?
Yes.
Paul O'Brien?
Yes.
And Brad Harriman, yes. Okay. Next on our agenda is to approve the 2020 year-end encumbrances that I have here.
So, Mr. Chairman, you should have in your packet a list of encumbrances for year end. If you have any questions regarding that, you can ask myself or Casey. She's here this evening, our finance director. And this is a practice which we hope to continue going forward to provide the board with a clear understanding of what funds will be carried forward into the upcoming year.
Board members, any questions or comments on the list, or Casey, do you want to have anything? Linda, go ahead.
I just was wondering whether, just where you are heading, the finance director would give the public some kind of idea of why these figures are here and why we do this each year.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Yep.
Good evening. So I sent a letter to the town manager on December 23rd after soliciting requests from the department heads for encumbrances. Encumbrances are monies that are going to be carried over from the approved budget of 2020 into 21. They're legal obligations that already happened. So a PO's been done, a contract's been signed, but the product or service will not be complete by 12/31. So the POs are put on a list and the money is encumbered into the next year. We do break it down by different funds, general water, electric, sewer. There doesn't happen to be any on, sorry about that, on Prop Whalen, and also any warrant articles that are non-lapsing. So we have about 847,000 in warrant articles that we're carrying over. General fund, 439,000. I am rounding numbers. The water fund, about 93,000. And the municipal electric company has almost 2.9 million, and a lot of that was a warrant article done for the electric distribution phase 5. And sewer has a small one of 5,000. So the total requested encumbrances is $4,255,000, $60.65. This is a not to exceed amount. As these are paid, if they're paid in time before the books are closed, we will take it off the list. This has been a standard practice, and it is against RSA 32:7 lapse of appropriations. So if you have any other questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them. Linda, did I satisfy your request?
Absolutely. Excellent job. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Very nice job.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the board members?
I'll move to encumber the not to exceed amount of $4,255,060.65 for 2020 as recommended by the department heads and the finance director.
I'll second that.
A motion and a second to approve the encumbrance funds as presented to us this evening. Any other discussion? Seeing none, I'll have a roll call vote. Linda?
Yes.
Dave Bowers? Dave Senical?
Yes.
Paul O'Brien?
Yes.
And Brad Harriman votes yes also. All right, thank you very much for that. Next on the agenda is to ratify the 2021 ASME union contract.
So, Mr. Chairman, the board has approved the funding in non-public session. The 2021 ASME contract agreement allows for a one-year contract. It's $39,003 in wages, $8,468 in benefits, for a total increase of $47,471. This is a one-year contract. There is essentially no change to the contract. And just to put it into perspective, the 2020 warrant article was $38,915 in wages. So less than $100 difference. And wages, or excuse me, benefits in 2020 was $7,324 compared to $8,468. Mind you, there's a significant increase in the New Hampshire retirement system, and that's where those increases lie. The 2020 total appropriation was $46,239 for about an $800 difference in the 2020 appropriation to the 2021 appropriation. Basically, just need to complete the ratification so that we can get the contract signed and put it into play going forward. The collective bargaining agreement has agreed to the terms as well.
All right, thank you, Mr. Pinio. Questions from the board?
I'll make a motion that we approve the ASME union contract.
I'll second that.
Motion by Dave Senical, second by Paul to approve the ASME 2021 contract. Any other discussion? Seeing none, have a roll call vote. Linda,
Yes,
Dave Bowers? Dave Senical,
Yes,
Paul O'Brien,
Yes.
and Brad Harrell votes yes also. Thank you. Okay. Next on the agenda is discussion on the 2021 warrant articles.
So, Mr. Chairman, yes, a couple days ago, received the feedback from Attorney Puffer regarding warrant articles. I also received additional feedback from him this afternoon on a couple of warrant articles. What I'd like to do this evening is quickly go over the bonds, and then get into the warrant articles. And if possible, I'd like to have the board vote on the cash warrant articles. I see Paul has a question.
Yeah, Paul?
No, it's not a question, Jim. Just last evening, a member of the public, Suzanne Ryan, asked what's the bottom right-hand corner of the proposed warrants and the bonds, and you'll be addressing that, I presume?
Yeah, so I did not send that to Suzanne today because I wanted to get the completion from legal done, and I wanted to get this approved and basically get it out tomorrow. But yes, I do have a number right now. So mind you, this is without the ASME contract. Right now, in cash warrant articles, we're looking at, and this is a gross appropriation, $3,668,477. Now, $900,000 of that will be coming out of a capital reserve fund for fire apparatus. So that'll reduce the appropriation to $2,768,477. I had a conversation today with our finance director, and we feel that we're comfortable. We've had conversations, and we'll get into the ladder truck option purchase in a couple minutes, but we would like to utilize the fund balance to make up the difference of the purchase of the aerial device. Reason behind that is if we do the lease purchase, it's going to be $100,000 plus a year on the operating budget of the fire department, and to us that doesn't make a whole lot of sense when we can pay for it in cash. Additionally, we'd like to use $650,000 to pay for the roads warrant article. If we were to utilize those two amounts of money, that would bring the cash warrant articles to $1,638,477, which is a reduction compared to last year of about $500,000. I don't have the exact number of last year's warrant articles, but it is a significant reduction. However, with that said, we do have some bonds that is staring us in the face. And of course, those have got to go through public hearing, which we have that date scheduled. I don't remember it right off the top of my head. And they also have to pass with a 3/5 majority.
Thanks for
We
bringing
also
that up.
have 3 of these bonds are under the enterprise funds. One of them is a general fund, which is the docks. And then we need to have a conversation about how we want to handle Pop Whalen, whether that's going to be a general fund bond, whether that's going to be an enterprise fund bond, or if that's going to be some form of a hybrid. That gets a little bit confusing. So with that said, if you'd like, I'd share my screen and we can try to go through this, Mr. Chairman.
Certainly, I think that sounds good. Linda, go ahead.
yeah, I just looked on my calendar. It's January 12th for the public hearing on the bonds.
Thank you, Linda.
There you go.
Just so board members know that when this screen's up the way I'm looking at it, I can't see everybody, so just pipe up if you have a question or comment.
There you go.
So this first page is a summary page that breaks down our bonds or our warrant articles. The yellow is really some items that we've got a little bit more work to do on making some decisions, which we've done some of that already.
Jim, can you blow it up? Can you blow that up a little more?
Well, let me get to
Oh,
the
right hand
article.
corner.
Yeah, I don't.
You can't do it. Better. That's good. Good.
How's that?
Yeah, people can see that. You'll just have to scroll. Yeah, there you go. You can scroll.
So quickly, the MED phase 6 is 1.85 million. The RIB site is 3.5 million. The asset management plan for wastewater treatment is 300,000 or 30,000. Pop Whalen, 800,000. Dock repair and expansion is 1.5 million. Operating budget yet to be determined. ASME contract, we just finished that. Ladder truck replacement, 1.38 million. Town road upgrades, 650,000. Park and High Street, that's a total of 881,000, with 345 of that coming from the water fund, 536 coming from the general fund. Railroad Ave layout, 100,000. Sewer pump station engineering, 100,000. Library generator, 75,000. Police vehicle, 57,000, $77. Water resources capital reserve fund, this will be a new one, 50,000. And the rest of these are in line with what we've previously done with slight increases. Department of Public Works equipment capital reserve, 180,000. Building maintenance capital reserve, 75,000. Wastewater treatment plant capital reserve, 175. Bridge Falls Path lighting, 20,000. Abenaki capital reserve fund, 20,000. Fire truck capital reserve, 186. Dispatch console, 50. And we know that we're looking to transition the treasurer from an elected official to an appointment based on Mr. Burt wanting to retire. He's anticipated $2,500 in crossover training. We've still got some more work to do on that. So this is the total of $3,608,477. 900,000 coming out of the capital reserve for the fire apparatus brings us to 2.768. The 480,000 from fund balance for the ladder truck brings us down to 2.288, and then 600,000 for the roads from fund balance brings us to 1,638,477. That's the summary. And I've kind of got these in the order at this point that I'm thinking we should lead them off in. So the first warrant article would be a bond. The first bond would be municipal electric, in total of 1.8 million. I've just got to get clarification on an exact starting point based on legal advice. And this will have no impact on the taxpayers or the electric rate. Any questions regarding this warrant article? Hearing none, I'll move on to the next one. So the second bond would be the rapid infiltration basin site upgrade. This would be 3.5 million. We'd utilize the state revolving fund to do this. Principal and interest payments for this bond shall come from lawsuit settlement. Therefore, this project will not result in any increase in the tax rate. One of the items that Mr. Ford's been discussing with the state is our ability to do this. The state is allowing it to take place, which allows for some loan forgiveness, which could be a significant savings on this. So we would essentially, according to the conversations with Mr. Ford, once the bond was levied, we would essentially pay it off, and we'd save money, significant amount. With that said, this has been through legal counsel at this point, with no concerns. Any questions on this?
2 questions, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, Paul? Yes?
So just for background, what's the size of the legal fund, the lawsuit that was won during Mr. Ford helped prosecute that?
So it's my understanding that the balance in this fund, according to the treasurer this morning, is at 3.5 million.
Okay. And what was the total amount that was awarded when the?
I'm not sure if Mr. Ford's here, he may be able to answer that.
The total bill, we had 7.5 million was the settlement. These would be round numbers. And we ended up paying the attorney about $2 million. So we ended up at 5.5 million net.
Okay, thank you, Dave.
That 5.5, there's a breakdown. We've appropriated 3 different appropriations, 500,000 or more. And what's net left is 3.5 million, and that's going up. John Bird has done a great job of investing this money. So every year we go back in, there's more money. It's growing as we speak, but there's approximately 3.5 million left from the 5.5. What was left after the 7.5 award.
And Dave, if
Thank
we
you,
go into this warrant article, what is your estimate that the state might pay?
That was my second question.
Oh, sorry.
That was my second question.
Okay, so the answer is we have been qualified for an SRF loan with 15% forgiveness. So if the project is a $3 million, which is what we 3 to 3.5 million, even at the low end, if bids come in low, we'd be looking at $450,000 of loan forgiveness. While it seems crazy, the way the system works, this is federal dollars that is given to the states in a state revolving fund. So they want to turn the money over and they want to use it for water, wastewater projects. The loan forgiveness is for communities that really need the project, and we were qualified. It was a competition. We applied. We got to the top of the list, and to receive the loan forgiveness. And while normally communities have to pay it over time, because we have these funds, we can pay that off and receive that loan forgiveness at the end of the project, which would then be able to be reused for other wastewater projects.
So for clarity, that 450 is not bookable right now. It's an anticipation. We know how those things work, but it's good clarity to know that there could be some recompense here. Thank you, Mr. Ford. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome. Any other questions on the RIB article?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is a asset management plan bond that goes through the state revolving fund. Dave is here. He should be able to speak to this a little bit clearer than what I can. Dave?
Certainly. This is, we've done this multiple times. If it looks like deja vu, we have used this program, and again, it's funded by the New Hampshire DES. And what they're trying to do is encourage communities to manage their utilities through asset management. We have been using this program over the last, I don't know, it's 8 years. We've done the sewer system, the collection system, and we had a $30,000 grant for that. We had the water collection system. We had the water treatment plant. And the last one we did was a stormwater one. This one now is going to be for the wastewater treatment plant, in which we've been gathering a lot of this information, but now we need to kind of finalize it and put it into the asset management plans that we've presented to the board before, which is basically it inventories all our assets, determines where they are in their useful life, and then we kind of makes an estimate for the replacement costs, and then develops a long-term plan to replace those things, and then develop finances to do that. So this one here would be for the wastewater treatment plant. It's for $30,000. Similarly, we have to, it's like a loan, so we're going to borrow $30,000. As soon as we complete the task, they sign off and they forgive the loan. So this is going to be a net zero, but it obviously it comes from the feds, and it's a program we've used in the past, and it's what we're doing, building on the water and sewer asset management plan.
Thank you, Dave. Any questions from the board? Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So the next one is one of the ones that I need to get some further guidance on. Pop Whalen, $800,000 for the purpose of performing critical repairs to the roof, siding, adding insulation, dehumidification, and electrical system upgrades. The building is in rough shape. This bond would be for $800,000. And the conversation piece here is, you know, do we look at this from an enterprise fund standpoint to pay for it? Do we look at it from a general fund standpoint to pay for it? Or is it a hybrid of the two? I'd like to hear some input and guidance from the board on this one.
Linda?
Brad, I guess my feeling is I don't think the 800,000 bond can be paid for by the enterprise fund. Looking at the dropping off of the bond payments it already has, it's hard for me to tell because we haven't done a real analysis of this fund. We changed the allocation in 2020, and we're just closing those books. I don't know, you know, what that did to the fund, but we know that we didn't have as much use this fall because of COVID. We know that coming, starting the first half of this next year, we're not going to have the kind of use of the facility because of COVID. So I would like to have some kind of analysis done to find out what part of this we can pay for out of the fund and what part we can pay for by the general fund. And I think there needs to be wording in this warrant article, if we do it as a hybrid, that the voters vote to understand that this is a change and we're voting to now take money out of the general fund instead of just out of the enterprise fund.
Linda, I kind of think along the same lines as you there, and I was looking at this, and I kind of had the thought here of, I don't know what the breakout is of the numbers here, but for the building itself, like the roof, the siding, and insulation is more of a building and a structure type thing that in my mind, we could do out of the tax base. Dehumidification and probably the electrical system upgrade could go either way, whether we need to upgrade the electrical system because of the extra power for dehumidification, whether that could come out of the enterprise fund because that's kind of an operational type thing that needs to go on in there. I don't know if you can kind of see where I'm going here, that, you know, the kind of the building and the structure itself would be the town's responsibility, and the functioning parts of it inside could be the responsibility of the enterprise fund. So any other input on that?
That could work. Yeah, that could work. Yeah, that could work. And then as long as we know what the numbers are, where
Right.
it gets, where we really need to crawl around in this, and I completely agree with Linda. We need to crawl around in the income statement of Pop Whalen, because on the heels of this conversation, we're going to hear next year from the Pop Whalen folks that thing that makes the ice, the chiller, that thing is in need of potential replacement. And at that point, that chiller is going to have to be born. If we still do the enterprise fund thing, that's going to have to get borne by the actual enterprise fund. So for this year, I agree that this should be a hybrid. I don't think I think the language needs to be changed. I think I personally have been there, and I'm sure other people who look at this have been there. That building is broke. It's broken. It's almost, when it rains, they have to put buckets on the ice to catch the water, and then they have to refreeze the ice, because if you try to hockey stop with buckets circles, you'll break your leg. It's not in good shape. And so I think the first thing is, should we fix it? Yes. How do we pay for it? Jim, we need some math that kind of breaks this into pieces. I've looked at Pop Whalen Enterprise Fund. It's upside down. By best I can tell, it's upside down, which means it's not carrying its own weight. And we just need to deal with that. And we need to tell the voters that that's what it is.
So the good news on this is we do have a breakdown of cost estimates based on roof siding, installation, dehumidification, and electrical. So we do have those estimates broken down by those components. So we should be able to do this. The hard part is being able to do any type of analysis the financials right now because of the time restrictions that we're under, but we will certainly try to make an attempt to do that. Additionally, I agree. I think that the Pop Whalen Ice Arena is having a difficult time this year, simply because of COVID. However, I know that the facility is very well attended throughout the year, and you know, it's one of those things that the youth and even the adults in this community enjoy heavily. So thank you. That does give me some direction to head in refining this article.
Brad?
Yes, Linda.
Jim, is this 800 based on current quotes or on old quotes?
No, I believe that these are updated quotes that Christine had received. When she gets back, I will, from her days off, I will verify that, but I believe these were all updated quotes from a reputable vendor who provided the initial project scope when the whole facility was looking at being renovated and expanded.
Okay.
The next one is a recreational dock repair and expansion. This is 1.5 million. This is to take the docks, repair them, expand the docks B, C, D, and E. And this was tackled late this summer, early this fall. The Board of Selectmen put the ad hoc committee for the docks back together based on a letter that came out from the EDC. And as a result, the work went forward. We received word regarding the proposed work that was going to happen this winter. However, with the loss of the big grant, which we decided not to pursue based on the restrictions and the over-anticipated cost of the project, this is going to be put on hold. At this point, if you have questions, Dave Ford is here and he should be able to answer those questions relative to this particular project.
Brad?
Yes, Linda.
I have a couple questions. In 2020, we had an appropriation of cash in the general fund of 170,000. And if I'm correct, we have about 100,000 in the capital reserve account. Why would we not and I think it was a 2-year bond, 2-year warrant, or why would we not want to try to take the 170 and the 100 and use that as cash and bring down the bonded amount?
We can certainly head that direction. It does put us a little tight on time because the work would start not until the fall of 2021. Some of those funds with the lapsing warrant article would be tight, but we could do that. And I also recall a conversation with the ad hoc committee that surrounded, do we actually utilize those funds, or do we give those funds back to the taxpayer?
I think that's what was poking at. That's what she was poking at. Either use it, we give it back. What's your decision? What's your recommendation?
So if we could make this all come together perfectly, I would like to reduce the amount that we bond and utilize those funds that we have available to us to reduce the bonding amount. But we've got to be sure that we're able to execute this plan in the fall of 2020 and utilize those funds before they expire, because they do expire December 31, 2021. So in the perfect world, yes, I would like to utilize those funds.
Jim, can I add to that?
Please, Dave.
One of the things we got to realize on the 100,000 that was in the cap reserve, a good chunk of that has been encumbered as we're continuing on with the engineering for the rest of the docks, because we need to complete the wharf side and the permitting for the dock extension and engineering for the dock extension. So we've already appropriated, encumbered or spent 40,000. So there's a net, say 63,000, because we made some money on interest. That money also needs to continue with the permitting and engineering process. I'll probably have to spend some more of that money to finish it and get it out to bid. So I wouldn't want to take any of the cap reserve money for this big project. The math on the other numbers, Linda was correct. We had 300,000 minus the 130 that we did not accept from the grant. So 170 of some of that money we have encumbered is spent to put out the job we are doing now out to bid. So we're down to 260,000 available from that original money minus 130. So there's a net 130. The one reason for not taking that money would be because that money was specifically for a project as A, B, and C, and D. And now we're expanding the docks. There might be some thought to giving the money back to the voters and say, hey, look, we voted this. Now we're changing it. We're making it bigger and we're expanding it. And it's very important. And we have the support of everyone. So we're going to give that money back. And now we're going to bond the whole project and let the next generation pay for it, whether it's 10 years or 20 years. So that might be an argument to give the money back. Also, using the money just could defray the cost. But like Jim says, we are tied to spending that. And I don't think we'd have a problem if we use the contractors that bid already. If we have to rebid the project, it would be difficult to spend the money by the end of 2021 because we'd have a short season. We could get it awarded by this time. We could get the contract awarded. I'm not sure it could be all spent by the end of 2021.
I think that's a good point, Dave, you brought up about the fact that that money was raised for a specific project, and this one's a little bit different.
We had a grant, now we don't have the grant.
Mm-hmm.
So would we put the return of that money in this warrant article? Or what, how does it, if we are going to return it, we want them to know we're returning it,
Absolutely.
And I guess that would be, if that is the decision, I would like to know how we're going to inform the voter we return it. And I don't know, Jim, if Mark Puffer, you could check it out with him, whether we could add it to this warrant article
You make an interesting point, Linda. I think we can actually reauthorize those funds based on a conversation I had with Attorney Puffer on a different topic, but I believe we could reauthorize those funds within this warrant article to reduce the bond amount.
I don't think that's what Linda was
What
asking.
happened, Jim, if we were going to give the money back to the voters? In other
Yeah, I
words,
think Linda was saying give
not
it back.
subtract the bond because we're saying it was for a different program. Is there a way to word it in this warrant article, or would we put a warrant article that before this one that said, or right after it says that we are returning X amount of money to the voters?
Yeah, I'll check with Mark on that, whether it should be tied into this or should it be a separate discussion point. So I'll check with Attorney Puffer on that.
So I think that would be the cleaner way to do it myself, but see what
Well,
Mark has to say.
Probably does require a second warrant if you're going to do it that way, because you don't want to have the voters say, gee, I have to vote to lever up the town before I get the benefit of this money coming back, you know? You probably have to put it on two separate pieces of paper.
And just to add in, I think it's almost required, because if we can't spend the 170,000 by the end of the year, we need to actually return it. And I think it has to be done by a vote at a warrant. So I think that's something we should look into. I remember Kathy Carpenter saying something about that too.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay.
Brad,
Yes, Dave.
if we're going to do that, do we have a projected time frame that this is going to come back? Because a lot of people are going to say, hey, you said we were going to do this, and now you're saying we're not going to do it at all? Or when are we
No.
going to?
We will absolutely get this this work done with the intent of this coming forward in the 2021 warrant.
Okay, so it would be a new warrant article to be utilized in 2022. Is that what you're saying?
No, if it's a bond, there's really no time frame associated with it. So, you know, it's just a matter of working with Mark, getting this figured out legally, and getting it back in front of the Board of Selectmen.
Okay.
I believe you meet next Wednesday, so we'll be able to have it hopefully for you at that time. If not, certainly before the bond hearing.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so this will be on this coming warrant, Dave, I think that's kind of what you were driving at, right?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Exactly what I
Yeah.
was trying. It
Absolutely.
sounded to me like we were gonna just return the monies and let this whole warrant article disappear.
No.
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 Misunderstood, which can happen.
Thank you for asking the question.
Once in a great while, only once in
Yeah.
a great while. Mr.
Okay.
Chairman,
Yes, Paul.
related but not for discussion tonight. Some of our esteemed friends have asked questions. Will the construction take place during summer season? Not for discussion tonight, but it's come up at least 3 times. And so that should be addressed when we start mentioning this to the public. And the second, which Mr. McDonald has offered to help with, is one of my favorite pet peeves is the buoys, and he has offered to help arrange a public hearing, because I guess you have to have a public hearing to move buoys, not only for the town docks, but also for placement of buoys down at Cary Beach. So that I'm just parking that one out there as an offer by John to help us in that regard.
You're talking about the no wake zone buoys and stuff like that, Paul?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's as Dave Ford knows. I mean, these people come in and they present massive bow waves, And we've also had asks from the folks at Corinthian to the yacht club to do something about the buoys. That goes back a few years. So John McDonald is aware of it and said, I guess you need the state has to hold a public hearing or some matter. He said, while you're at it, if you wanted to have buoys down at Cary Beach, you could he'd throw that one in the wagon too.
Chairman, I'd like to add something too, just to make sure everyone's aware. We also need to get the wetland permit. We have the permits to do the dock repairs because that was an easy one. It's replacing kind. To get the dock extension is a different permit. It's going to be more significant. We're just working on that now. So some of the money that we have in the cap reserve will be used to get that permit, and that's going to take some time, as will these hearings that John offered to. So that's all good. Now that we're going for the dock extension, we'll move forward with that. But there are, I just want to make sure everyone, we still have to get the permit. That's not a done deal. The committee done a lot of legwork for us, but it was on hold. So now we got to pick it up and finish it and get that permit in and hopefully approved.
Thank you, Dave. Next one would be the operating budget. We're working on getting that buttoned up. Next one is a request to increase the stipend for the police commission. There was a minor adjustment recommended by Attorney Puffer. It is anticipated that for the next 5 years, the police commissioner's yearly stipend of $3,500 will be included in the general fund operating budget. If
Attributable to the police
again,
department.
Mr. Chairman, I to put some of these behind us, if the board has questions and would like to vote on this particular article this evening, it would be helpful in getting some of this stuff moved along.
Brad,
Okay. Yes, Linda.
we had a letter from the police commission, and my understanding is they wanted to change the amount to $3,100. And that would mean the new money would change from 19 to 1,500. And they sent us a letter asking us to do that.
Okay, I've got that on a revisit then, because I guess I missed that one.
Yeah, I saw that at some point here.
Yep. And then, and Jim, on this, it says will be included in the general fund operating budget, but it's attributable directly to the police department's budget. Is that correct?
It is correct, but the Attorney Puffer wanted to be sure that it outlined that it was coming from the general fund and no other accounts.
And he changed the word to anticipate.
Yep.
Was the other big word he added in there.
Okay, so I'll revisit this with those numbers. I apologize. That's an error on my part. I guess I didn't see that one.
No worries.
The ASME contract, this one, we just finalized. Here are the numbers, $47,471. It's the standard article that we've used in the past for the ASME contract. And any questions you may have, we can answer. Additionally, if you'd like to vote, that would be great. That way we could move this one along.
Move to recommend.
Second.
Also,
We have a motion and a second to recommend the ASME contract agreement to move forward. Any other discussion? Seeing none, we'll have a roll call vote. Linda?
yes,
Dave Bowers? Dave Senical?
Yes.
Paul O'Brien?
Yes.
And Brett Herman votes yes also. Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, so this is one of the ones where we would be utilizing unrestricted fund balance to see if we would raise 1.38 million for the purchase of a new aerial ladder truck. This purchase shall be paid for by transferring $900,000 from the existing fire truck and apparatus replacement capital reserve fund. Passage of this article also authorized funds in the amount of $480,000 from the town's unassigned fund balance to be used to pay for the balance of this purchase. This expenditure will not result in any increase in the 2021 tax rate. So again, this is one of those articles. The ladder truck has failed its testing. The machine needs to be replaced. The expense associated with this, the increases are in the region of $50,000 a year. We looked at a lease purchase option. The lease purchase option, we're looking at between $100,000 and $150,000 a year that would be put onto the fire department's operating budget to pay for the purchase. We think that this is the best way to move forward. That way we can finalize the purchase, which will essentially take almost a year for delivery. With that said, I can try to answer any questions for you. I think the chief had a meeting, so I'm not sure if he's here this evening.
See a WFR out there.
Brad?
Yes, Linda.
Yes, can Kathy give us the amount right now in the unrestricted fund balance? And how much we're planning to use and what it brings us to at that point, and what percentages of it is?
Yes, I can do that. So as of December of 2019, there was $4,700,270. The voters already said that they would use $200,000 for the municipal revaluation in 2020, bringing it to a $3.8 million fund balance, which is 10.84% based on how DRA calculates the unassigned fund balance. If you were to use, and I am making an assumption because there's two items here, if you were to use $480,000 for the ladder truck as suggested and $650,000 to fund the roads, you'd end up with $2,677,000, a 7.62 percentage, which is in line to where you ended in 2018. So giving back any of the excess surplus and unexpended appropriations that you got in 2019.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Keep those numbers, if you wouldn't mind, Kelly, keep those numbers handy. Because I want to have a chat or just a discussion when we talk about the police council. Mr. Chairman, so just for the folks that are watching out there, so we've had the conversation with the fire department, the current and former chief, that this piece of apparatus, we could fix it. We'd take it out of service for probably 9 months. So that's not a good idea. We've had the conversation that says, do we or do we not need an aerial? And the answer is we do. And I think there's some insurance implications and some things we need to do in order to have an aerial. So this is again, in my view, this is a capital expense we have to make. It was unplanned, but I think also the fire department, current and former chief, have figured out ways to reduce the total fleet size. Isn't that right, Jim? Are you reducing fleet size?
That is correct.
So, so they, not to be too clever about it, the belt has been tightened here. And so we just now need to figure out how to pay for it. That's kind of where I'm at.
I think one thing to mention too, Paul, is, you kind of said that this was unplanned and stuff. I just let the voters know this has probably come about, was it a year, maybe 2 years early? I think it was in our budget to replace in 2022 or 2023.
Right.
It's just, definitely got moved up in the schedule here when it failed its hydraulics test there. So.
Yep.
And I think it came in higher than we projected a ladder truck would cost.
Mm.
I thought we were.
You're absolutely right. The escalation on these trucks is quite frankly, scary. So this really makes a lot of sense to be able to get this done off the plate. This truck, the way spec'd and built, should easily have a 25-year life span going forward.
But even with the escalation, when we were not faced with the argument that says, buy it now, prices are going up. We have to buy it now because the current piece of fire apparatus is busted. It's no other reason, broke.
I think another piece of important information, and correct me if I'm wrong, Jim, is that if I remember right, the company that will build our new fire truck gives us one to use while the new one's being built at no charge. Is that correct?
We're working out the particulars on that detail right now, but yes, that is part of this whole plan going forward. Is while construction is taking place, as long as they have the contract, they're providing us with a loaner device, which the vendor has specifically for that purpose.
Yep. So we have coverage in our town in the meantime, which is good. So.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions on this one?
Would you like to think about it more, or would you like to move it?
I'd entertain a motion to move it if the board's ready to.
Move to recommend. Oh, Dave Cynical moved to recommend.
So
I'll
you
move
seconding
to
it, Paul?
I'm not seconding it because he moved to recommend. I'll let somebody else do it.
All right, I'll second it.
Oh, there you go.
Thank you, Linda.
Motion by Dave Senecal, second by Linda to move this forward. Any other discussion? Seeing none, have a roll call vote. Linda?
Yes,
Dave Senecal?
Yes.
Dave Bowers? Paul O'Brien?
Yes,
And Brad Herman, yes.
thanks, Jim.
The next one is our roads. Traditionally, you see a higher number in this particular warrant article, but we've broken this out into two separate and distinct road projects this year. So part of this is going to be $650,000 for town road upgrades. And Dave Ford is here to be able to speak to the roads, which would be under this particular warrant article. This would be a 2-year appropriation, which would lapse on December 31, 2022. And we're anticipating utilizing the fund balance because this is a popular article. And again, it does give back to the voters and reduces the total appropriation for the 2022 budget. With that said, any questions you may have specific to the roads that are being considered, you may ask of Mr. Ford.
And as usual, the voters will see the bill of materials, the list of the roads, when the projects will kick off. And for people who are, I know, just terribly interested in all of this, the road service management plan is always available for anybody who wants to see what our inventory of roads is.
Dave, would you like to speak to the roads that you're planning under this article?
Yeah, for the record, obviously the big road is Stoneham Road that went out to bid this year, and we had a lot of attention. We got a good comparative bids. So that's going to fit in, which we'll be rebuilding from the Cotton Mountain to the town line. Clock Road will receive an overlay in conjunction with the work that was done by a private developer. And they're going to be overlaying the last section will overlay up to the beach. And the those are East Clock Road and Goodrich Road. We're going to complete the neighborhood there. Those will be rebuilt, drainage and redone in conjunction with Clock Road. And so I think it's going to be a nice project to work all together. We also have money in for engineering so that we could, like we did this year, we engineered for Stoneham to get that out to bid. So next year, we want to engineer the roads, Maplewood and Berrywood, that neighborhood, for a big project for 2022. So that's the game plan, and I'll have those details, like you say, for the presentation.
Thank you, Dave. Any questions?
Yeah, Brad, I do. And I will
Yeah,
say
Linda.
I was the one who thought the unassigned fund balance should be all put towards the road. But I have a concern on the console. When I kind of looked at the cuts, and that's the dispatch console, which is supports everybody. It seems to me that that it would make sense, and I would like to see take 100,000 from this warrant article and fully fund the console at 154, and they would really won't do it. So in other words, the taxpayer will only have to pay 100,000 for the roads, and it just seems that that's something, if it let loose on us, we'd have trouble. And it was just how I had been thinking before we started these warrant articles.
Okay, so you still leave it at the 650, but it would change to being 550 from the unassigned fund balance and 100,000 from taxation, correct? Is that what you're saying?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Paul.
Yeah, this is why, Linda, thanks for bringing it up. I was going to come at it a different way. When Casey was telling us what the unrestricted fund balance is, I asked her to hang on to it. You're exactly right. We're all right. If the dispatch console goes away, fails, we have got to replace it. The dispatch console right now is being kept alive by purchasing spare parts off eBay. That's right, eBay is no longer supported by the vendor, no longer supported by software. So my question was going to be to KC is, how do we hedge? How do we hedge this this console purchase through the use of the unrestricted fund balance, that in the event of a failure, we just grab that money and then go buy one? And by the way, the chief has provided us, just for the members of the public to know, he has provided us a 30-day plan that says, if we have a problem, here's how we keep this thing going. So my question to KC is, can we hedge in some respects, or we can do what Linda wants to do, take 100 grand, fully fund it? I'm ambivalent on what to do. I just want to do what's right and have the money available in the event of a failure.
Brad?
Yes, Dave.
Well, the other part of this is a warrant article that gets supported really well every year. I think we all will agree with that.
Yep.
I think my feeling is we should leave the 150,000 in there and take that fund balance and offset it in the console. That's a separate warrant article. It's not part of this one. Correct?
Correct.
Correct.
So I would think we'd approve this one at the full 650, and we come to the console, let's work the math differently there. That's my feeling anyway.
I go along with that.
I mean, we're trying to do too much in one article. We should either fund it or not fund it. We know that people want roads. We've got some roads here that are now getting more traveled because people are going out for rides because they can't get together. So we need to do something with our roads, and I think we've been pretty consistent with the amounts of money we put in. Didn't we have one year we had 850,000? So,
Correct.
it's one of those areas where, it's working. Let's not screw with it.
Dave, I wasn't talking about changing the amount we were going to spend on roads. I was the amount of the unrestricted fund balance we were going to write off against it.
Okay, so you're still leaving the 650, but you're gonna fund it 550 and 100,000 from the fund balance.
From the
Correct.
voter.
The tax rate, yes.
Okay. As long as we have that 650 total, it looked to me like the conversation was going towards the console from what Paul was saying. And I didn't see that in here, but I'll go along with this. The math is good.
It's fine. That's fine.
Okay, so I've got my action on this one, 550,000 from fund balance, 100,000 from general fund. I will reward the article.
Okay.
And can I ask a question, Mr. Chairman, of Dave, or just maybe it's just to speak to this? I presume when we talk about roads, we talk about drainage at the same time. And I presume that when we're talking about Stoneham Road, and I don't know whether the issue has been resolved or whether it even impales you or not, you and Barry are connected, and pardon the pun, you and Barry are working together on any issues that may be present up on Stoneham Road in terms of pole access and things of that nature.
Yeah, Barry and I will talk. He should be aware. We're going to be holding a public hearing because of the need to cut some trees with the planning board. So we have a process to go through. So we'll definitely be in touch with Barry. While this project went out to bid, we don't expect to start construction until the summertime. So yeah, we will, the coordination, that's a good point.
We've had a couple of issues up there recently with the CARES Act, and I think people will ask questions around drainage for the stuff off College, off the different streets you're building. Thank you.
So the next one, Mr. Chairman, is the hybrid project of Park and High Street. See if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $881,000 for the purpose of upgrading High and Park Street. Funds shall be utilized for engineering fees, stormwater drainage system, the replacement of water and sewer mains, and rebuilding of the roadways. $345,000 from the Water Enterprise Fund shall be used for the purpose of engineering and replacing the existing water mains which service High and Park Streets. $536,000 from general taxation shall be for the purpose of engineering and replacing existing sewer main in High Street, stormwater drainage systems, and rebuilding of High and Park Streets. This appropriation shall be non-lapsing pursuant to RSA 32.7, Roman numeral 6, and shall lapse on December 31, 2026, or upon completion of the project, whichever occurs first. In speaking with Dave, this is one of those articles where the 18-month appropriation seemed like it could be a little tight depending on what they run into when they begin the construction. So there is an option for a 5-year lapsing appropriation. We felt it prudent to do the 5-year appropriation. Once the project's done, if it goes swimmingly, then the money will go away. But if we run into problems, this gives us a little bit of wiggle room and not being pressed for time toward the end of the time frame. With that said, any specifics to the project, you should be able to ask of Dave, and we'll try to answer the questions you may have.
Board members, anything? I think it's a pretty straightforward project.
Just to highlight the need on this one, about 2 weeks ago, we had a water leak on High Street, which came at a bad time, and it's really a substandard system. And then we also just had a leak this weekend on Center Street side, right near the same area, and the pipes we're looking at replacing. Some of them go back over 100 years. It also is going to call for the need when we talk about the water asset management plan. Center Street, that project is going to have to come sooner than later also, because that line out there is over 100 years old. But this is a critical one. It's a small neighborhood, but they really need to do all of these things at once. The water system the sewer on High Street, and the drainage system is critical, as well as paving. And then we're going to make plans for, again, the future, when we do have to replace the water main in Center Street. There'll be nice tie-offs there, so we're working with our engineers so we can make sure that all is coordinated. A very expensive project too, which is a killer, but it's been, like I say, on the road service management plan, this is the worst roads. The water system is really bad, and the sewer is really substandard. So this is a needed project, although it is very expensive. It is going out to bid next week, and so before town meeting, we'll actually have, I think, the bid prices. They might come in just the couple of days before town meeting.
Mr. Chairman, I
Brad?
move to recommend this. Oop,
I'll second it.
yeah, well, now we can have a chat.
I got a motion, a second to move this forward. Any other discussion? Seeing none, I'll have a roll call vote. Linda,
Yes.
Dave Bowers, Dave Senical,
Yes,
Paul,
Yes.
and Brad Hammer votes yes also. Okay.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, the next one is to raise and appropriate the sum of $100,000 for the purpose of laying out the gravel section of Railroad Avenue, installation of drainage, and the paving of gravel section, including parking spaces and gravel parking spaces. This would be a non-lapsing appropriation pursuant to 32(7) Roman numeral 6, and shall lapse on December 31, 2022, or upon completion of the project, whichever occurs first. I think there were a couple questions that were asked specific to this. I think we got those answers out to the board. However, if you've got any further questions, please feel free to ask Dave.
I'll move that we recommend this article.
Paul seconded. Thank you. Any other discussion? Seeing none, I'll have a roll call vote. Linda,
Yes.
Dave Bowers, Dave Senical,
Yes,
Paul,
Yes.
and Brad Hammer votes yes.
Mr. Chairman, I think Mr. Bowers has left the meeting. I can't see him out there in TV land. He comes back on.
Okay.
So, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Next one is the sewer pump station upgrade engineering, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $100,000 for the purpose of conducting preliminary engineering of the town's 2 sewer pump stations. This appropriation is non-lapsing pursuant to RSA 32(7) Roman numeral 6, and shall lapse on December 31, 2022, or upon completion of the project, whichever occurs first. The non-lapsing appropriation has been added in since your review. We felt it was prudent to do this with this article. The amount of funds, we just feel that 18 months should give us enough time to complete the project. Any questions should be able to be directed toward Dave.
Brad,
Yes, Dave.
the 2 pump stations you're referring to is the one on Lena Street by Huck's Hoagies, and the other one would be over on Mill Street? Because I know
Correct.
we have more than those 2 pump stations, so.
Right, yeah, we can maybe put the specific languages, because yes, those are the 2 main ones. Lena Street is the most critical, in dire need of upgrades. And Mill Street is not far behind it, which again, those would be the 2 projects we would get in and do detailed assessments, preliminary engineering. And this time next year, we'd have quotes already for the upgrades on those projects. So hopefully, yeah, that's what we're looking for.
I don't know if you want to list those 2 pump stations, because there are more than 2, so.
Yeah, we have
Somebody
9
could say, well,
total.
which ones are they?
Yep.
I think it'll be clearer, but that's just my feeling.
Yeah, I think that's a good point, Dave.
I'm in favor of it anyway. So,
Yeah, for the record, we have 9 stations. These are the 2 major ones, so Mill and then the other 7 are smaller ones in different parts of town feeding these 2 stations.
No, no,
It's
spell later.
L-E-H-N-E-R.
yeah,
Gotta give him a better spell checker.
Definitely needs a better one than me.
Town sewer pump stations located on Laner and Mill Streets. Does
thank you.
that add clarification for you?
Perfect.
I'll make a motion, we go forward with this to approve it.
Second.
Motion and a second to move forward with this warrant article. Any other discussion? Seeing none, roll call vote. Linda?
Yes,
Dave Senical?
Yes,
Paul?
Yes.
Brad Harron votes yes.
Dave Bowers is back.
Dave is
Mr.
back again. Dave Bowers? Take that as a yes.
Take that as a thumbs
Okay.
up. He said yes, his hand went up. Thank you.
Okay, next one is to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $700,000 for the purpose of purchasing and installating an emergency generator at the Wolfeboro Public Library. This appropriation is non-lapsing pursuant to RSA 32.7, Roman numeral 6, and shall lapse on December 31, 2022, or upon completion of the project, whichever occurs first. This particular project, we're gross budgeting on this. We do anticipate potentially receiving some funds through emergency management to help pay for this project, as it could be utilized as a shelter in the emergency operations plan, hazard mitigations plan going forward. But we won't know what those funds will be until awarded. So we're gross appropriating for the purchase. I do think Cindy was here earlier. If you have any questions, her, I should be able to help answer for you.
Yes, Paul.
There's Cindy. Hi, Cindy. So this 75,000 is the top amount. We know for a fact that 75,000 is the number. Is that correct?
Well, it may actually come in a little bit higher, but I think that 75,000 is adequate for us to be able to do the project with the grants we're anticipating, and also the possibility of some donation money that we're aware of.
I have a question, Jim. Should we put any wording in here to accept any grants, either state and local, which it would mean that the Board of Selectmen wouldn't have to hold a public hearing if money came in either as a donation or a grant? I don't believe, if we do it in the warrant article.
Yeah, that's a good point. I will consult with Attorney Puffer on that one. We should be able to put language in there to be able to accept grant funding or donations, as Cindy has alluded to. So I'll work with him. With that said, we can table this one for next round.
Okay.
Thank you, Cindy.
Thank you.
So the next one is to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $57,077 for the purchase of a new police vehicle and ancillary vehicle equipment. Said appropriation to be offset by $2,000, which represents a portion of accumulated revenue in the special police detail revolving fund created by Article 23 in 2006, which has accumulated from special details in prior years, and $55,000 from the general fund, $55,077 from the general fund. Quite frankly, I still have got to verify the revolving fund balance. but this is the warrant article, and Chief Rondo should be able to answer any questions which you may have.
Any questions from the board?
So, Mr. Chairman, is this a revisit, Jim? We can't vote to move it forward until we have that firm number, or what?
Yeah, I need to get the firmed up number on the revolving fund. I just have not got to that yet.
We'll put that on the revisit or table it to the next session.
Dean
I
can come back.
do have a question of the chief, if I could, Mr. Chairman. So, Chief, if
Certainly.
this, when would you be taking delivery of this cruiser?
Well, that is a very good question. The short answer is I don't know. Historically, over the last 2 years, it takes a good 9 to 10 months for these vehicles to come in. But remember, earlier this year, there seemed to be a rash throughout the United States of police vehicles being set on fire and otherwise destroyed. So we know that they have been burning the midnight oil, building cruisers, and everybody has been ordering them. So that is a very good question. I'm going to stick with a solid 9 to 10 months at least.
The reason I raised the question is during the time that we're communicating with the voters, it's important for them to understand that this is not something that you just you pick up next Thursday at 9 o'clock. It's going to take 9 to whatever months, probably because of a lot of things going on. Not only to mention that we closed down, General Motors and other production facilities for COVID purposes. So this is
That too is a very good point.
This is something that has to be contemplated here in terms of putting a placeholder in and getting a cruiser. Thank you, Chief, and thank you, Brad.
You're welcome, sir.
May I, am I on?
Yeah, go ahead, Casey.
There's $1,694 in the detail special revenue account. They just used $13,000 in 2020 to offset the vehicle. The detail income seems to be a little less because of COVID, and I think less events have happened, and that's why there's not a big fund balance. But by putting 2,000 in there, you could use that all the way up through next year. So I think that 2,000 is still a good number.
How does the board feel about that, putting a number in there, anticipating that we'll be building the fund up enough by the time it comes in?
You could say by up to $2,000.
Well, except you got to tell them what you're going to ask them to take out of the general fund.
Right. Yep.
But you are by saying you're spending $57,077, up to $2,000 from special revenue, and then the rest would be from general fund.
So let me make sure I get the math correct. You're saying right now we can put our hands on $1,644.
94.
94. So
Yep.
that's $1,700, and the difference between 17 and 2,000 is $300.
And you have all the way till the end of 2021 to have, more money in that account.
Good
We
math.
could-
Could we make up any money? I'm sorry. Could we make up any money from the unexpended revenues in the police budget? Casey, is that permissible?
Not really, because we don't usually earmark revenues specifically for appropriations,
Okay.
gross appropriations.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, I think I'd feel better about maybe changing that $2,000 number down to 1,700, like Paul said, and then bringing the 55,000 up to 55,377.
I
Yeah.
agree with you, Brad. I think
I
that
agree.
we just don't know what's going to happen in the rest of the COVID years, and So I think that's just good.
I agree. I agree.
Is that a
We should be
motion?
hedging. Well, no, you have to make that one.
You guys talking about it, you make it. I'll second it.
All right, I make the motion that we move this with recommend it.
Second,
There you go.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to move this one forward with the changes we talked about of bringing in $1,700 from the revolving fund and raising $55,377 from the general fund. Any other discussion? Seeing none, I'll have a roll call vote. Linda,
Yes,
Dave Bowers, Dave Senical,
yes,
Paul,
Yes.
and Brad votes yes also. Okay,
Thank you.
You're welcome.
This is establishment of a new capital reserve fund. See if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $50,000 to establish a water resources capital reserve fund for the purpose of water quality improvement, such as assessment, corrective action, best management practice, grant matching, and education. Said funds shall be under the custody of the trustees of trust funds. Furthermore, to authorize the Board of Selectmen and its agents to expend from this capital reserve fund. That's what I've got. I believe Paul or Linda may be able to speak to this further. Any questions you may have?
any questions or a motion out there?
Recommend we move it along.
I'll second that.
Motion and second to move this forward. Any other discussion?
And just for clarity, I think the question when we come to the deliberative session is going to be asked, how does this capital reserve fund play with what's going on in Wolfeboro Waters? You know, we don't want to leave anybody with an impression that there's two sets of monies for one set of projects. So we just need to be clear when we communicate to the public about it.
And I think, Paul, we're going to want at least an example of a project that might come out of here, one or two. You know, we have our building maintenance and we say we're going to do this roof and we're going to do that and the rest is for emergency. If there's something that we know we're going to do out of here, whether there is some kind of a education brochure or whether there's something to go towards a 319 grant, we should try to see if we can have an example.
Yep. Okay, any other discussion? Seeing none, I'll have a roll call vote. Linda,
Yes,
Dave Bowers, Dave Senical,
yes,
Paul? Yes.
and Brad, yes.
We're not doing
So this has Milfoil Capital Reserve Fund. This particular warrant article has no money associated with it. It just authorizes the board to be able to put money into the account from funds which may be distributed by the Milfoil Joint Board. Linda, is there anything you'd like to add to this?
the only thing I'd like to do is I would like to underline where it says fund distributed by the Milfoil Joint Board into the Milfoil Eradication Public Expendable Trust Fund, just so they know where the money's going. And other than that, it's pretty, I think, self-explanatory.
And again, there's no need to vote on this as there's no funds associated with it. And I believe that's been a standard practice of the board for a number of years. Am I correct?
Yes.
yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Moving along, Public Works Vehicle and Equipment Capital Reserve Fund. This is an existing account. See if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $180,000 to be placed in the existing Public Works Vehicles and Equipment Capital Reserve Fund. Said fund shall be under the custody of trustee of trust funds. Furthermore, the selectmen have been agents to expend from this capital reserve fund. Standard article, slight increase. I believe last year was 175. The Public Works Department has done an outstanding job this year in the garage, making sure that the fleet is in good repair. They actually rebuilt a couple of motors. Really have done an outstanding job in keeping our fleet going, because quite frankly, right now, this fund is struggling a little bit based on the costs of the equipment compared to the life cycle that we're seeing. Any questions you have can be directed toward Dave, but this is a fairly standard article that you've seen.
I'll make a motion, we approve this.
I'll second that. Any other discussion? Roll call vote. Linda,
Yes.
Dave Bowers, Dave Senical,
Yes,
Paul,
Yes.
and Brad votes yes also.
Building Maintenance Capital Reserve Fund, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $75,000 to be placed in the existing Building Maintenance Capital Reserve Fund, established for the purpose of making needed repairs and performing needed maintenance to town buildings and facilities. Said fund shall be under the custody of trustee of trust funds. Further, the Board of Selectmen have been designated as agents to expend this capital reserve fund. This fund actually got used fairly heavily this year. I think we've done 4 roofs actually, a minor repair at Pop Whalen, public safety building, substation, fire station, the dockside restaurant. So it's been heavily used, and we've got some projects coming down the pike in the coming year. We may have to look at relocating the air conditioning unit at the town hall, based on the way that it's set up now for the server room. It lets significant amount of cold air into the building. We think we've got a better model going forward. We've just got to figure it out. I believe some other work that's planned is replacing the decking at the railroad station, and anything else which may come down the pike in the coming year. With that said, I can try to answer any questions you may have, or Dave can also answer any questions you have regarding specific projects.
Jim, one of the things that we heard at the budget committee and looking at their budgets, what is everyday maintenance opposed to what is the maintenance that we are talking about in this warrant article? And we need to have clarity on that. There's the everyday yearly maintenance that needs to be done, and minor jobs. This is for the larger ones. And I think we need to clarify this right away.
Yep, agreed. I mean, if we have an overhead door at Public Works or the public safety building that fails, those are going to be easily $6,000 to $10,000 in expense, and that would just simply decimate those budgets. So you're right. We can get some clarity, definitions, rules of engagement on this particular article, but it is very important to take care of our buildings and try to prevent larger problems from manifesting.
I think it's go to the rule book, pull the definitions, and they're pretty clear as what's the difference between the building maintenance at the operating side, capital reserve funds. I think that would be the voters, I think it would be very helpful.
Yeah, you have quite a bit of maintenance work to do on the town hall building too, in reference to brickwork.
Yep.
And
Yep.
water seeping in, hasn't been addressed in the last year or two and needs to be.
Yeah,
Just walk around the building.
We've got brickwork that needs to be done at Town Hall. We did do a little bit of touch-up painting this year at Town Hall. Today, we actually had a piece of slate that came off the roof. And we've got a few places where we've got slate missing. That's got to be addressed in the coming year, and that's not going to be a cheap proposition.
Well, you got a professional mason working for you now in the highway department. I talked to him and he's already got the color of mortar that he needs to repair the brickwork. So, you've got some people that are very professional that way, that are
Yep.
working for it.
Agreed.
We want to move this
So
along.
I'd like to make a motion. Go ahead, Paul.
Move to recommend.
I'll
Second,
second.
Oh, Linda beat Dave to it.
Oh, that's pretty close.
I'll toss up, you know what? Dave can have it.
doesn't matter. You're next to Paul, let him do it.
Okay, we're motion and second to move this one forward. Any other discussion? Seeing none, roll call vote. Linda?
Yes.
Dave Bowers?
Yes.
Dave Senical?
Yes,
Paul?
Yes.
And Brad, yes.
Okay, wastewater treatment plant capital reserve fund existing to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $175,000 to be deposited in the existing wastewater treatment plant capital reserve fund under the custody of trustee of trust funds. Furthermore, the selectmen have been designated as agents to expend from this capital reserve fund. Last year, we removed this article in the interest of rationing capital out last year. Dave had initially come in to make up the difference at $250,000. We came to an agreement of 175, and this is kind of where we're at. If you have any questions specific to it, you should be able to ask Dave and he can answer questions which you may have.
I'll make a motion, we move this forward.
I'll second.
Motion and second to move this one forward. Any other discussion? Do a vote, roll call vote. Linda?
Yes.
Dave Bowers?
Yes.
Dave Senical?
Yes,
Paul?
Yes.
And Brad, yes.
Getting there. Bridge Falls Path Lighting Capital Reserve Fund. This was established in 2020. See if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $20,000 to be placed in the existing Bridge Falls Capital Reserve Fund. Said fund shall be under the custody of the trustee of trust funds. Further, the selectmen have been designated as agents to expend from this capital reserve fund.
I'll move that we put this one forward. It's got to be done.
I'll second.
I'll second it.
For discussion, this is, we have a letter on file from a electrician telling us it's electrically unsafe. But we don't know what the costs are to trench and to do all of the attendant things under the ground. That's why, for the voters, that's why you probably look at us and say, well, why don't you fix it? We don't know the numbers yet. We got to get the numbers. But I would hope and pray that we find a way next year to deal with this. First of all, it's unsafe. Secondly, it's ugly. Third, it's probably a couple of those poles are probably going to fall down. I just think it's bad business for us to not deal with this one.
Other than that, it's fine.
Aside from that, it's great. Just super.
Oh, I
Only
love
gets like 40 or 50,000 people walking by it every year.
Yeah.
Okay, any other discussion? Seeing none, we'll have a roll call vote. Linda?
Yes,
Dave Bowers? Dave Senical?
Yes.
Paul?
Yes.
And Brad, yes.
Okay, Abenaki Ski Area Capital Reserve Fund existing to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $20,000 to be placed in the existing Abenaki Ski Area Capital Reserve Fund. Said fund shall be under the custody of trustees of trust funds. Furthermore, the Board of Selectmen have been designated as agents to expend this capital reserve fund. This is a slight increase from 16,000 and some change. This goes in line with Christine's asset management plan, which she has for that, which we will be putting into the proposal for this going forward for the taping. Any questions you have, I may be able to answer, and I believe Bo may be here as well to help out if you have any questions.
I'll move to recommend.
Second.
A motion and a second to recommend this one to move forward. Any other discussion? Seeing none, roll call vote. Linda?
Yes,
Dave Bowers? Dave Senical?
Yes.
Paul?
Yes.
And Brad votes yes also.
Fire truck and apparatus replacement capital reserve fund existing to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $196,000 to be added to the existing fire truck and apparatus replacement capital reserve fund to be under the custody of trustee of trust funds. Furthermore, the selectmen have been designated as agents to expend from this capital reserve fund. So this will keep the program intact moving forward with the way that the ladder truck is being purchased. So the next purchase coming forward should be able to have cash in the bank to do it unless we run into an incident where we have with the ladder truck where we have a premature failure.
I'll move to recommend.
I'll second.
A motion and a second to recommend this warrant article. Any other discussion? Seeing none, we'll have a roll call vote. Linda?
Yes,
Dave Bowers? Dave Senical?
Yes.
Paul?
Yes.
And Brad votes yes also.
Okay, I need to take that note out of there. Chief provided that. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $50,000 to be placed in the existing dispatch equipment capital reserve fund for the purpose of replacing the dispatch console and other related equipment, installation, and other related expenses. Said fund shall be under the custody of the trustee of trust funds. Furthermore, the selectmen have been designated as agents to expend from this capital reserve fund.
Isn't this where we're gonna move $100,000 over to this one to add it? Was it to add to that, Linda, you talked about, or?
yes, yes. It should read $150,000. And then somewheres we have to put 50 from the general fund and 100 from unassigned fund balance.
Yeah, and quite frankly, I'd like to just get the language correct and have this as a revisit, but I'll absolutely convert this to $150,000 with $100,000 coming from the fund balance.
Okay.
So we'll revisit this one upon updating the article.
Okay,
Okay, and this would be our last article. This is still out for legal review, but as many of you are aware, Mr. Burt has discussed his desire to retire as our treasurer. Conversations have been had with Mr. Burt, and he feels strongly that the position needs to go from an elected position to an appointment. So this is what this warrant article shall read, but this will be visited further after we get some updated legal review from Attorney Puffer based on the dialogue he and I have been having back and forth.
okay, so we'll have a revisit on that one, obviously.
And that sums up our warrant articles.
Jim, I think the first three that we did, I don't think we actually did votes on them.
No, we didn't vote on any of the bonds. We will wait until the bond hearing to
Okay.
vote on those. It's my understanding that that's the practice we should be utilizing is that way the public can air any concerns at the bond hearing and then the board can vote.
Yep, I forgot about that. Thank you. Okay, so that wraps up our discussion on the warrant articles. Next one will be discussion on our warrant article taping dates and procedures, how we want to do it.
So warrant article taping is going to be a little different this year, but I think we've got the technology to do it. Quite frankly, I don't remember the date. Amy, do you have the date right handy?
I think Timothy, if he's still on here too, he was thinking around the 19th or the 20th.
Which is in line with what we did last year. So, you know, it's most likely going to be in a hybrid format. You know, and I anticipate you being able to do it just like we have been here right along. And then it's just a matter of getting the warrant article PowerPoint presentation done in advance so that you can review it and deciding on who's going to speak to which article.
I would like to suggest that we do the 19th because we have a Board of Selectmen's meeting on the 20th.
But we had prepared for the 19th, which works fine for WCTV. We'll work with whatever works good for you. And we're fine with the way you did the program tonight with the sharing of the screen. I think we could do a very good presentation of the articles while your person reads each one.
What time were you thinking, Tim?
We had put down 1 o'clock in the afternoon. You typically read afternoons. But again, we'll accommodate as best we can what you come up with.
That
I think
works
in the
for
past,
me.
we've gone 1 to 4, 1 to 5, or something like that.
Works good for me.
Okay, we'll pencil that in, and I'll send out a list of warrant articles. That way the board can pick which ones they may want to speak to, and we're actively working on the PowerPoint for it right now. So we'll get that going.
Sounds good. Okay, do we have any other business this evening in front of us?
So, Mr. Chairman, we do have a couple items that I'd like to have Casey speak to. And that is, you should have received this morning, rather, a default budget. So that was completed. That was quite a task, but we got it figured out. And you should also have a document relative to anticipated revenues. With that said, I'll hand it over to Casey to speak on those topics. Casey?
Okay, so I worked on the default budget, starting with your voter approved 2020 operating budget of $28,043,555. With the assistance of the town manager, we backed out any increases or one-time items. There's a long list of them, but I'll give you some examples. You had a decrease in agencies, you had decrease in diesel. Excuse me, I should say agencies about $21,000, diesel about $24,000. You had a Park and Recs pickup truck last year of $43,000. We backed that out. You had some machinery and equipment in fire and rescue for about $9,000. The total is about $170,000 of items that were significant items that we backed out of the budget. Then we proceeded to add in the labor costs for the police union. It was a multi-year contract done in 19, but you'd have to add in the expenses for 2021. The asthma contract for 2021. Health and dental went up by $149,000. Retirement benefits went up by $123,000. There's about $3,000 in payroll taxes associated with those two things. Other compensation, this had to do with some of the new hires and that type of thing. Property and liability insurance went up $21,000. Solid waste disposal went up about $76,000. And debt service principal and interest went up $239,000. Those were the general fund adds and subtractions. The other funds, water went down $220,000. Electric went up about $89,000. Sewer went down $134,000, and Pop Wayland $21,000. Giving you a proposed default budget of $28,304,031. This is approximately a $390,000 decrease from the budget as it stands now. However, with the current budget still moving, the delta could change a little bit. Once you agree upon the default is frozen, but the change between the proposed operating budget and the default could be different. If you were to back out the other funds, the adds and subtractions to the general fund, it's about $105,000 less than the current proposed operating budget for the general fund. I do have backup for all of this, all these details. I did review it with the town manager. I did just send it out to the department heads just this afternoon, so I'm sure nobody's had a lot of time to look at it to get any buy-in from the department heads. But that is where the default budget I propose to give to you this evening.
Thank you, Casey.
Great to have you on.
Any
board.
questions?
Thank you, Paul.
You're welcome. Casey, I sent you a few questions. They're not going to affect the puts and takes on the budget. I just need some clarification. It's in your inbox. I sent them to you this afternoon.
Was it on the revenue or?
Yeah, it was on the revenue side.
Okay, I'm prepared to answer those questions when we go on with the revenue.
All right, very good.
Do you need a motion, Brad, to accept the default budget as presented to us tonight?
I think that would be appropriate.
That's the motion.
That's the second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the default budget of, all budget you're talking about is
Yeah, I'll just,
28,304. Go ahead, want to read it, Casey?
yeah, $28,304,031.
Okay. Any other discussion? Seeing no other discussion, we'll have a roll call vote. Linda?
Yes?
Dave Bowers?
Yes.
Dave Senical?
Yes.
Paul?
Yes.
And Brad votes yes also. Okay.
Woo-hoo.
So
Next
now,
is our revenue.
yeah, revenues would be the next topic, Mr. Chairman.
So with the assistance of the town manager today, we looked at revenues. We took the 2020 budgeted revenues and compared it to the actual. The actual revenues are as of today. However, even though it's December 29th, December is not complete. We still have more revenues coming in. We'll, be booking stuff for at least another month or so. So these aren't final numbers, but they're very directionally good. So then we looked at the proposed column of revenues based on the 2020 budget and the 2020 actuals year to date. The only thing here I want to point out is on the second page, the interfund operating transfers for the enterprise funds. Those are going to fluctuate based on what happens in water and sewer and electric and Pop Whalen. As you agree with warrant articles, those numbers would change, which affects the bottom line. However, the individual line items are directionally correct. There was one number brought up by Selectman O'Brien. There's an administrative allocation that we take from the other funds that is paid over to general fund. I couldn't find the breakout between the administrative allocation and the billings and collections. Working on that with the past finance director, I guess there was a calculation done. The number is correct. I just couldn't break it down into the billing and collections. That's why it is empty. And I think that, and also like proceeds from long-term notes and bonds isn't there because you haven't finished that exercise, nor is what you're deciding to use voted from fund balance. So when you're done firming up all the warrant articles, this would change, but the total estimated revenues and credits is just shy of $18 million. And for, I'm sure you know this, but I'll say it anyways. This is a proposed revenue, non-tax revenue. We do get a chance to review this again, October and November timeframe, where you'd have the actuals in 2021 before setting the tax rate. So this is the best estimate we can come up with now, but before the tax rate is set in the fall of 21, we do, the board has the option to change some of the revenues at that point. So, and I guess
Linda.
one other thing, oops, sorry, one more. I neglected this morning to break out the fund balances for the other funds. I hope you got that. That came in separate email. Two, I will reemphasize that that will change based on some of your actions on the warrant articles and stuff that you did today. But that is it. Thank you.
Thanks, Casey. Yeah, Linda, you had a question?
Yeah, I noticed that for 2020, we have no rooms and meals tax. Do we know whether that usually comes in end of December or the beginning of the next year? Or are we have a real issue there?
No, I believe that one and the filtration grant are coming in. Either they came in December, we just haven't booked all the December's entries at this point, but those numbers, the budget are from verified through Department of Revenue. So even if we don't get it in December, we can book a receivable because DRA has told us those numbers are coming.
Those numbers are definitely coming. Okay.
So just to follow on to that one. So even though we had no rooms and meals activities of any significant degree, are you saying that DRA has said we're going to keep last year's number level?
That is the number. Right before we set the tax rate, the Department of Revenue will give me any estimated state grant revenues, and that is a number that I was given from the Department of Revenue.
Okay.
In my experience in my former community, we haven't seen it slip off yet. They're sticking pretty close to budget. It might not be exact. It's the future years that we definitely might need to worry about, if that number is to start slipping.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments?
I guess I'll just say one more. This also I gave to the department heads today to look over, again, late this afternoon, timing. You know, I would have liked to given them a chance to weigh in on some of them, if there's any significant changes or if they have any questions. But these two documents, I believe the town manager and I will plan to give to the budget committee tomorrow and review it tomorrow night with them. And I do not believe you need a motion on the revenues at this point.
Okay.
Thank you, Casey.
All right. Thank you, Casey.
You're welcome.
Anything else under other business this evening, Mr. Pinio?
That sums it up, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
Brad?
Committee reports. Oh, yes, Linda.
My only other question is that are we going to have the town manager draft a warrant article for the reorganization that we want added to our warrant articles? I gave him a quick draft of something, but I think we should make sure we get that added.
Yeah, I believe so, because I believe that letter that I'll be reading in tomorrow night referenced that right at the very end, that we would be drafting a warrant article for the town voters to consider.
Yes, I have that as a go-to item, and I did receive the preliminary draft from Linda, and I've made some tweaks to it. My hopes are to get it out to Attorney Puffer tomorrow.
Thank you.
Sounds good, thank you. Anything else under other business? If not, we'll move on to committee reports. Linda, you want to start us off this evening?
Yes, I had a meeting with the Special Events Committee last night, Wolfeboro. We're all set for the 31st to be a remote last night Wolfeboro on the Last Night Wolfeboro Facebook page. You'll see the events and the time, and that's we're looking to hopefully getting a lot of people to that event virtually. It took a lot of work to try to put it together in another means. The scavenger hunt is up and running. It started on the 26th. It will go through the 31st at noon, and we have already had people downtown looking for the clues. And I have joined Paul at a number of budget committee meetings over the last couple of weeks. That's all I have.
Thank you, Linda. Dave Bowers, have you had any committee meetings? None there, okay. Thank you. Dave Senecal.
Yes, the only thing I've had is a Conservation Commission meeting. The only thing I've had recently.
No, it isn't.
Thank you, Dave.
You sat with the fire chief. You sat with the fire chief.
Oh, yes, well, I'll let you can get into that. We'll put that one over onto you. That's always exciting.
All right, thank you.
All right, Paul, your turn.
We called the Docs Committee together just to update them on the fact that we have received some preliminary information from bids. Kind of gave them a status report of where things are. They've been watching us, obviously. Dave Senecal and I, and that was with Linda. Dave Senecal and I met with our architect and our beloved fire chief to get the fire department renderings, drawings, whatever it is, going. And our town planner is setting a course to get the two proposed lots surveyed and do topology reviews on it. And I have also joined with Linda at the budget committee. That's all I have, sir.
Thank you, Paul. Yeah, I haven't had too much since our last time we got together. I did attend the budget committee meeting last night virtually. That's really about it. That and a few conversations with Jim every once in a while, and tonight's meeting. So wraps up committee reports. Town managers report.
Mr. Chairman, budget meetings, been attending a lot of those, attended the doc committee meeting, discussion with that. And just budgets and warrant articles. That pretty much is occupying my life.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. Questions from the press. Alyssa, you are here with us this evening. Nope, don't see her or hear from her. Okay. Our second round of public input.
Hello, Brad. Suzanne here.
Hello. Hi, Suzanne. You still
Hello.
with us?
Yeah, a couple of positives. I thought the visuals that the town manager put up were extremely helpful. Casey's reports are excellent, clarifying, probably the best we've had in the last 10 years. I would ask for, again, as I did last year, budget book to be put at the town hall with the backup information. I don't believe that was done last year, so last year and this year's. And finally, not finally, but one other comment on your new capital reserve fund for $50,000 for water quality reserve fund. I think that needs to be clarified as to what you mean for water quality. I mean, I know from listening to you, but it's still a vagueness there. Are you talking drinking water quality to our water enterprise fund? Are you talking water quality lake water? I think it needs to be defined better. And I'm sure you can do that. And then one negative, I'm sorry to have to say this, but I don't think it was necessary to air your feelings about the budget committee in the way that you did regarding their opposition to a warrant article relevant to DPW. I think you simply could have come out in public and said that you disagree with how they did that and present your warrant article. I think that was not necessary and inappropriate. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Suzanne. Anybody else out there with public input this evening? Seeing none, I'd entertain a motion to go into non-public under RSA 91-A, I believe.
Okay.
A motion to second to go into non-public. A roll call vote. Linda,
Yes.
Dave Bowers,
Yes.
Dave Senical,
Yes.
Paul,
Yes.
and Brad votes yes also. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Casey.
Yep. Thank you, Casey.